The NFL remains the prime king of American football, but that doesn't mean that other leagues have tried to come in and take a slice of that pie. There's the USFL that launched in the 80s and folded after just 3 seasons. Then there's the Alliance of American Football that didn't even get to finish a full season, as they filed for bankruptcy mid-season. And then there is the XFL. If I brought up the XFL, you might think of, actually, hold on. The league that was founded in 2018 by Vince McMahon had 5 weeks of play in 2020 before COVID derailed the whole thing for The Rock to buy up the league to make it more of like a minor league for the NFL. That's an XFL. But I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the 2001 one that felt like a wild fever dream. I feel like the XFL came and went so quickly, and I was just a kid, that I often growing up, like years afterwards, was like, was that real? Did that really happen? I was only 5 when it launched, so I would see it on NBC and be like, this is not that. Is this a different? So yeah, I had a hard time asking friends if it existed or not. In 2001, Vince McMahon, the then head honcho of the WWF, had a collaboration with NBC Sports to make the XFL, Extreme Football League. Vince McMahon once called it the Extra Fun League, and the goal was simple. Let's make football even more extreme. The NFL had a problem with touchdown celebrations, amongst other things. Vince McMahon called it a no-fun league, and I don't think he's completely off base at the time.
Suggest that the NFL stands for the No Fun League. The XFL is going to be the Extra Fun League.
Vince McMahon wanted the NFL to be more hard-hitting and not playing scared football, which I had to pause for that because I was like, Vince McMahon, there's a world where Vince McMahon saw the 2000 Baltimore Ravens, one of the hardest-hitting teams in football history, and said, nah, we want more of that. Excuse me? That was prime Ray Lewis. Now, the XFL was NBC's attempt to getting back into football after losing the NFL rights to CBS and Fox in 1998. Vince McMahon had an idea to mesh football and wrestling elements to make an entire new, not new sport, but an entire new iteration of the sport that we all know and love today. They announced the league in 2000, and they only had a short period of time to get the league off the ground. And to be fair, a lot of that was their own doing. They accelerated the timeline themselves. They announced it a little bit too early. With this new league, it also had a slew of new rule changes, which I'll get to that later. So the main thing I want to get from this video is, how did the XFL stack up as a football watching experience? And I'm going to go off of week 1 of the XFL, which was the most popular version of the league, and also, I think, the most raw version of the league. If you're new here, welcome in, and if you know me, welcome back. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting on the channel. As you can see here, I'm not in my usual place of business. I'm trying to get outside, examine new sceneries, and, switch it up a little bit. So thank you for bearing with me on that, and let's get to the rest of the video. It's time to watch the first ever XFL game in full. Now, this XFL broadcast starts off with an official message from The Rock.
The players in the XFL, and on behalf of the fans in the XFL, The Rock simply says, just bring it. Just bring it.
And I gotta say is that growing up, wrestling is one of the few things that I do not know about as much as I would like to, but I understand enough to get me through this video, if that makes sense. I have some of the wrestling video games, but you can't just ask me like, yo, what was the WrestleMania plot line of 2004? I'm not gonna be able to tell you that. I have no clue. Like, The Rock was a fan favorite and a huge success to the Venn diagram of the WWF, but that's all I got for you. And this is a really good idea. It's a really good idea to have these familiar faces promoting this brand new thing that some of your fans will know and be like recognized, but the XFL is about to introduce a lot of new people, and I will get to that later. And I'm pretty sure that there probably was a small group of new XFL fans that were like, maybe there'll be some wrestlers that play football as well, and were highly disappointed. Anyway, we are live in Las Vegas, and Vince McMahon comes out to the field and gives a speech on his vision for the XFL, thanking the fans and his idea of the perfect style of football.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the XFL.
His main promotion piece is the fact that you're going to get as much all access to everything about the XFL, which is something that a lot of sports leagues did not even try to dabble with for a long, long time. He's talking about access to the players, access to hearing what the coaches say in the locker room at halftime, access to more cheerleader angles. Spike TV era, man. It wasn't even on Spike TV. It was just the 2000s era of just weirdness. Now, we're in Las Vegas, so the home team is the Las Vegas Outlaws, and they come out to raucous cheers. You know, people have their jerseys and whatnot, and then the opponents are the New York, New Jersey Hitmen. I gotta say this right now. Naming a team after two different locations is stupid. I understand New England. That's a region. Just doing two states, that'd be like if it was the North Carolina, South Carolina Panthers. Do you hear how wild that sounds? Timeout. Full. It's time to talk about this video sponsor. As a content creator, I spend a lot of time shooting, recording, and editing videos, and what I often forget to do is feed myself. And that's where today's sponsor, Factor, comes into play. Factor ships fresh, never frozen meals right to your doorstep. It only takes about 2 minutes in the microwave to heat up these meals. It saves me so much time and allows me to do what I do best, creating content for you guys. If you're a fan of food variety, Factor just doubled the size of their menu with over 80 options per week. They also have double the seafood options and double the high protein meals too. Factor also has a new meal customization option that allows select proteins to be swapped at no additional cost. For example, if you don't like pork chops and want chicken instead, just swap it out. Factor is also expanding their global cuisines range with the launch of new Asian and Mediterranean cuisine meals, with 30 plus options for the global cuisine meals now. Factor helps make food easy as you save the time that you would normally do meal prepping or going to the grocery store. If you want delicious meals that can be made fast and taste good, try Factor today. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use my code KOFIEFB50 to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code KOFIEFB50 at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free breakfast for 1 year. Thanks again to Factor for sponsoring this video. So today's play-by-play and color combination was Matt Vasgersian and Jesse Ventura. And I know what you're asking, guys. Yes, Jesse Ventura was still the governor of Minnesota. We then are met with NFL Hall of Famer Dick Butkus to introduce the scramble, which is the XFL's alternate version of the coin toss. In the scramble, you get two of your fastest players at the 35-yard line, and they both sprint to midfield, and whoever has possession of the ball gets to pick if they receive or kick. This is a good idea in practice. I want to say that there's another game going on at the same time, being broadcast at the same time. This one is on NBC. The other version's on satellite. On the satellite version of the scramble, there's a guy that gets hurt during the scramble and is out for the entire game. That happened multiple times during this XFL season, by the way. This is a good idea on paper, but yeah, in future versions, players kept getting hurt by this. And that's the thing where it's like, it's XFL, but like the only thing more extreme than NFL football is just constant pain. The Las Vegas Outlaws received the kickoff and were immediately introduced to the Las Vegas Outlaw Cheerleaders. Now, I watched the ESPN documentary on the XFL, and a big proponent, a big promotion piece of the XFL was actually promoting the cheerleaders. Now, part of this was because it was the early 2000s, and that was what TV kind of was in certain aspects. But the other part was that the XFL really didn't have anything to promote. They didn't have any gameplay. They didn't have any prominent players that were going to be in the XFL. They didn't really have that many marketing tools. So they just turned to cheerleaders. They had a sex sells kind of thing with the cheerleaders. And one of the marketing things in the ESPN documentary they said was different camera angles. And brother, dude, What is cool is the fact that we get access to the coaches' pregame locker room speeches in terms of what they're saying to their players. Now, what they're saying isn't anything of special note. It's standard football stuff, right? Go out there and you're not expecting any speech from like Remember the Titans or Any Given Sunday or whatnot, but it was cool in 2001 to have that kind of player access, be like, oh, this is what a pro football team is doing before the games. That's what they're up to. This mic'd up behind the scenes thing is an idea that will then get applied to other sports leagues. You have NFL mic'd up, NBA mic'd up, and a clear theme of this XFL thing is that while the league did not do that well, a lot of ideas were taken from it, and almost none of them have anything to do with the actual gameplay itself. During the game, we then get a screenshot that explains everyone's pay scale. So the quarterback gets $5,000. You get $4,500 to the others. Then you get $3,500 to the kickers. And then each player will get an extra $2,500 for each win in the season. Then you get $7,500 for a playoff win. And then the final would be a grand total of $1 million split between all of the players. That would be the main prize pool for this. So the main things I got from this is that, one, the kicker is going to have the best deal out of all of this. And two, calling the rest of the league outside of the quarterback the others, kind of crazy to me. I don't know, Vince. There are some things here that go on through the entire broadcast that make me ask if Vince McMahon has really like watched football like that. And I feel like calling every other position the others is not helping the case here. I'm so sorry. And maybe there's a world where Vince McMahon played football back in the day. I have no idea. The game starts with a cool reverse kickoff at like the 40-yard line, and then the entire offense introduces themselves to the fans.
Clement, quarterback. BCS is a sham. University of Miami, national champs. Todd Floyd, wide receiver. Welcome to the city that really never sleeps.
So this takes about a minute or 2 minutes of time. So each person gets to like give their name, their position, their college, say something cool. And I think this is a great idea because this is our first introduction to all of these people. Some of these people are ex-college players or whatnot, but this is our first introduction to a lot of these people. We are learning the names of 11 new people instantly. Not to mention the 11 people on defense, not to mention the head coach, not to mention the play-by-play people. So it gets to be a lot that adds up pretty quickly. And this isn't a deterrent per se, but you figure out real time who the stars become, who the impact players to watch are. Because right now it's a blank slate. Nobody knows anything. We also get to hear the play call here from the quarterback where even though we don't understand what we're saying, they're saying regular football jargon. They're not saying like, hey, dude, go left and let's run left. Let's figure this out. No, they're doing the regular football jargon stuff. And while I can't understand it, it's cool. Now, on the first play, the quarterback does scramble out, and Jesse Ventura makes a reminder that in this league, quarterbacks are not allowed to slide.
You notice right away there's no sliding in the XFL. Our quarterbacks get treated like fullbacks. They're required to play the game here.
Which, like, okay, I get that. I don't have a problem with the quarterback not being allowed to slide. It's the way Jesse Ventura says it, like it's like some like, oh man, they're not allowed to slide. I'm nitpicking here. I'm sorry. Let's continue. Later in the drive, the Las Vegas Outlaws hand the ball off to He Hate Me, and he gets a chunk of yardage.
What's that on the back of his jersey?
Brian Trout, I'm not sure. They can put any name they want on the back of their jersey, so you got nicknames, you got everything out there.
I know you got nicknames, but that seems to be a phrase.
He hate me.
Whenever you mention the XFL to any sports fan, the number one answer on Family Feud would likely be, oh, he hate me. They say he hate me. Everyone knows he hate me. XFL had a thing where you could put your nicknames on the back of the jerseys. And I get the wrestling element of this because no one calls The Rock Dwayne when he gets into the ring, you know, like The Undertaker, right? You have the option to put your nicknames on these jerseys, which is sick. The Outlaws are putting together a really good drive, honestly. And then we cut to this exchange.
Quarterback Ryan Clement knows how to score.
Especially against an 8-man front. When the free safety slides over, my receiver gets a nice free release, which causes the defense to collapse, therefore allowing us to penetrate for the touchdown.
Like, this stands out to me a lot as a very weird exchange. I know that they're trying to go for the sexy, nerdy dynamic here, but it just comes out of left field, and it's just so awkward. And again, the XFL, they got football guys, and not all of the football guys are going to be personality guys. But when you get these football players to be in the XFL, they kind of have to be the personality, especially if the football is not that different from the NFL. I kind of wish that this quarterback actually had a whiteboard to draw out some of the plays so that we could sit here and learn something, because again, we just got a segment where he just gave us a ton of weird jargon. These players are going to have to double as entertainers, and I don't know how many of them really care about that part, right? Some players just want to see this as another way to play football. Having players have to double as that can kind of become a tall task at certain points, depending on who it is. We then pan into an intro into Skycam, which is one of the main XFL innovations that has stayed with us throughout. Now, Skycam is kind of an overhead camera that allows us to watch the XFL at a unique angle. So NFL usually does like side to side, whereas the XFL kind of shoots it vertically. And I gotta say, I wish that NFL football was always shot this way, because I often struggle as a football fan because I don't get to see the routes develop. You get to hike the ball and then 4 players disappear off the screen, right? With Skycam, you get to see like route concepts and stuff, and it's better to learn the game of football that way if you're trying to learn the game of football, in my opinion. The Hitmen force 4th down, and then we get some more all access of the players trash talking, and it's real extreme football,
You don't want none. That's Northern Iowa, baby. We still don't want none.
Ty Talton talking a little junk. That's unusual. You got a defensive back, but talking junk, that never happens.
I can't tell if the play-by-play people are being sarcastic there, but whatever. The Las Vegas Outlaws kick a field goal to go up 3-0. And then they cut to a sideline reporter that is asking the question that we all want to know. Why he hate me, bro?
Rod, why do you have he hate me on your jersey?
Because they hate me, man. Look how they looking at me. Look. Baby, we're going to have to fight back.
They hate him.
Now we know.
So one thing I'm noticing early about this broadcast is that there's a lot of dead air, and it feels like a weird balance between the play-by-play people when they're supposed to talk and when they're supposed to let the all-access do the work. Because sometimes the play-by-play person is talking, and then they cut to an all-access moment, but the all-access isn't really all-accessing. So then there's just like some silence. It gets a little bit weird. It is what it is. And I know part of the dead air is for you to highlight the players doing the talking, but sometimes they're just doing their job, and that's not exciting. We then have the Las Vegas defense introducing themselves, which is cool, and then there's a cut to an all access of the coach of the Outlaws actually coaching.
Where's Pitt? Where's the other outside? Where's Haven at? Okay, listen. If we're in cover 2, 7-man front, what they're doing when they're running the weak side, they're bringing that tackle on him right now.
This access is cool. There's a lot of trial and error here early with the all access stuff. Cool all access stuff doesn't seem corny in the slightest, so that's a plus. And I think a big thing that sports leagues often learned over time is that, yes, we will mic up the player, but we're going to listen for the mic-upable spots, right? So when you watch an NBA broadcast and they mic a player up, they cut to that segment like way after that moment has happened. So there's probably someone directing being like, oh, that's a good clip. That's a good clip. Clip that for later. XFL, they're not doing that. They're doing that on the fly. And I wish that that was probably one thing. I don't know if they have the technology or wherewithal to do that, but I wish that they had stuck to that instead. The Hitmen are about to punt, and I have to explain another rule for a second. There's no fair catching in the XFL, and if a punt goes over 25 yards, the ball is fair game. So it's basically like an onside punt if it goes over 25 yards. As a fan of chaos I do not hate that rule, but I do think it's a hard rule to keep track of because, one, you're asking the players to keep track of 25 yards full speed. That just seems a little bit of a tall task. I don't know. It might just be me. So the referees see a late hit and decide to call a penalty, and there have been some penalties here and there, but I do think that at this point in time, the refs are treating this just like a regular football game, which takes away from the entire point of the XFL. Like, the XFL is supposed to be more dangerous, more hard-hitting, more extreme, but these referees are being put in a weird spot because they have absolutely nothing to go off of. There's no example gameplay of being like, you see this right here? This is actually not a late hit in the XFL, whatever. So the referees are just calling this like a normal football game. Now, I'm never going to take the side of more players putting themselves in danger for our entertainment, but I will say that if your whole product was marketed on football, but even more extreme, but you're still calling it like it's a regular football game, the fans in the stands are not going to be excited. Like, the people that bought tickets to be in the stands for these games were expecting like Gladiator, like the scene from Gladiator, where it's like, oh, we're gonna watch people get hurt for our sport. What are these penalty flags doing? Anyway, we have a commercial, and then we cut back to an XFL cheerleader introduction.
Hi, I'm Paula, and for the last 10 years, I've lived right here in Las Vegas. By day, I'm a law student, and at night, I'm an XFL cheerleader.
Yeah, we never see this person again. It's clear the XFL thought the cheerleaders would be a big draw or something, but I don't know why having them say their names and introducing them, I don't know what that does. We just met 2 new football teams worth of new players, and I think we're going to have our hands full with that already. They do have a segment of just mic'd up football hits promoted as big hits, but if we're being honest, this just feels like regular NFL competition, but you put the mics a little bit closer so that the sound is louder. This looks like regular NFL football, guys. As someone that watches the AFC North year in and year out, this is pretty standard stuff. Now, a wild part about this debut is that there's a second XFL game going on that wasn't being broadcast on national TV at the same time. It's on satellite. And I gotta say, I wish that they made this a doubleheader. I know that they couldn't because of Saturday Night Live, but having 2 games on at once and no way to watch the other game for a majority of people that didn't have cable is pretty weird stuff to me. That means that the first touchdown in XFL history actually happened off screen if you're watching NBC.
There it is, the first touchdown in league history scored in Orlando.
We then come back to where they cut back to the cheerleaders and use weird camera angles to a point where the play-by-play announcer just says this.
I feel uncomfortable.
And honestly, it's just crazy how they use this as a big part of the marketing for all this. I know that I keep repeating myself, but it's still just wild. So if we're keeping score at home, we basically have regular football with some slight tweaks and then awkward shots of cheerleaders on NBC. We get our first touchdown in this game thanks to a tipped pass, and if you were expecting extra fanfare, you do not get it.
In the first quarter, it's deflected and caught. Sloppy seconds. Ricky Brady, outlaw touchdown.
This was something that could have been an entirely new separator for the XFL to the NFL. The celebrations. Vince McMahon himself talked about how the NFL would be penalizing celebrations, and then the XFL, you don't even have celebrations at all. That's a big miss here, especially coming from, like, if you're a wrestling fan, people have their signature moves. It'd be the perfect time to introduce a signature touchdown dance for the team or the player. Just didn't happen. And it's actually kind of wild that would be like the first thing that I would think of. I'd be like, if the football's not gonna separate it, why don't we have the celebrations do it? Do something cool. Do some wrestling moves in there. I don't know, man. There aren't point after attempts in the XFL, so you have to run and pass for it. And this means that kickers get paid even more for even less work in this game. And then this play turns into one of the worst drop passes I've ever seen.
Inside, he's got a man. Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
That's fine. 47 minutes into the broadcast, there is a rules refresher, but for rules that have never been explained before. At 50 minutes, we get a play update from what is the more exciting game of the two, but we're not watching it because we're busy watching an injured player hobble off of the field. I don't think that the XFL accounted for player injuries because all of this over-the-top action is great, and then when a player is injured, it sucks the air out of the building, and then of course the camera pans to David Spade. New York has to punt again, and we see the true chaos of the no fair catch rule.
Ball's got to get to the 24-yard line for that to happen. There's a hang 'em high punt. We might see it right here. No fair catch. And Mike Furry got absolutely smoked. A flag on the play.
Actually, there's 2 flags on the play.
Or so we thought. We get 2 penalties on the play, so there's still kick-catch interference, but no fair catch. Which kind of makes the no fair catch rule kind of stupid, no? Because I feel like we're all at home expecting players to be lit up throughout this, but no, we're not. You have a 5-yard radius, 5-yard catch radius for the punt return, but they're not allowed a fair catch. This is an incredibly hard play to referee, it feels like. We get a lot more player interviews, but then again, they're just regular standard interviews. The coaches are chill, and the players are still used to regular athlete interviews and media training. And we finally get the most exciting play of the night currently from He Hate Me.
They load up a lot of receivers on the left side. Clement's got to dump it off. He Hate Me, run smart. There he goes, midfield, breaks the tackle. Still dancing, still on his feet. Still going. This game don't show more breakaway speed.
They immediately want to go to him for an interview, but the man is wiped. Not only is he tired, he has to go back into the game.
He Hate Me, Ron, talk about the play. All right. He's going back in.
Okay.
Finally, 57 minutes in, we have our first stat graphic of the game show up, and 90 seconds later, we have a Stone Cold cameo.
I hear the guy who runs NFL, Paul Tagliabue, said that the XFL is a non-issue. A non-issue? Hell, I think that's an insult to football fans everywhere and an insult to the men knocking heads on the football field. You know, Mr. Tagliabue, you might be careful of that non-issue, just might bite you on your ass. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Which is awesome, but what he's saying doesn't match the product on the field, as this game is the Snoozefest. And it comes down to the biggest weaknesses that many football leagues struggle with: quarterback play. So that's one thing that all these new leagues have to struggle with. Now, I know that the XFL had some quarterbacks that were in the NFL. I think Jeff Brom and then Tommy Maddox as well. But throughout the league, that wasn't a guaranteed given. And even then, at that point, it's not like they were plucking NFL starters. You know what I'm saying? It's mid-game and we get a fan interview for some reason. And I'm even more confused here.
How'd you feel about the scramble for the ball before the beginning of the game?
It was great. Hey, if you want the ball, you got to get the ball. Go Outlaws!
I'm confused here because they're asking us about something that happened close to an hour ago in real time. An hour ago. That happened so long ago. The next play, we finally get what I think is the first true instance of XFL action.
A lot of time to throw. He's got a man over the middle. There's Brandon Sanders, the talkie safety.
What a hit after that one. A 24-yard return, but he got his lunch served to him on the sideline.
And honestly, this is what I've been waiting for the entire time. It's been a while. And we also get our second good player interview.
Look like you were hit by a truck over there.
Oh, he got me, but you know what? I roll with punches, don't please believe me. Like Sugar Shane. Sugar Shane, baby, I roll with the punches. That's all that was. Tell him to keep coming at me. He gonna put me back where I need to be. Tell him to keep coming, he's a bum.
And Brandon Sanders, or BMAC as they call him, he's a great entertainer. And it looks like we at least have one player on each side of the ball that sounds like a fun time. He Hate Me and BMAC. Great. We then have another fan interview. And I'm saying this because no other league would even dream of doing this, by the way.
Just how big of an XFL fan are you?
Let's put it this way. We've been in this city of Las Vegas for about 7 hours. We came all the way from Ramstein Air Base in Germany.
At first I thought the first person was a celebrity that I didn't recognize, but no, these are just regular fans. During the game is crazy. If a league has fan interviews, usually it's either pre-packaged, like so they can make sure that the fan doesn't say anything crazy. But no, the XFL is just like, no, keep it rolling, bro. But at this point, I'm starting to realize how many interviews there are currently, and I think it's reminding me just how not exciting the game is, because these athletes are not having that much to talk about. The fans are not having that much to talk about currently, even though we have another Outlaws touchdown. And again, there was no celebration.
Back to pass. Clement got a man. Touchdown! Nakia Jenkins, Outlaw touchdown. 27 yards. Vegas lighting it up.
There's no celebration film. This is one of the biggest deals about the NFL that they made, and the XFL just doesn't do it at all. It makes the least amount of sense. With that, the score is now 19-0 in the second quarter. It would be a shame if the score remained that way for the rest of the game, huh, guys? The XFL player that caught the touchdown got his player interview, but he was on the phone with probably a coach or something, so we get this interaction.
Nakia Jenkins caught the touchdown pass for the Outlaws. Nakia, I know you're on another call right now, but let me ask you. Can you hang up for a second, please? This is long distance.
It's a truly awkward experience because he immediately hangs up. And this is the second time a player interview has given us no actual answer. It's like the football players are locked into the game or something. I don't know. Eventually he does give an interview, but it doesn't get rid of the awkwardness. But you know what's also awkward? The fact that this game is not close in the slightest. It's only a 19-point lead, but it feels like 50. I think a big weakness that all these new football leagues have is the fact that they can't afford to have a preseason like the NFL or spring training like MLB play. Every new football league that mentions the NFL in some capacity will be compared to it. Meanwhile, the Outlaws are starting to sense that they are leagues better than their opponent, and they tell the audience that.
Can't mess with us, man. They trying, man. They trying hard. They get an E for effort, baby. But they know what's up. They scared right now. Watch this scary play right here.
Which is both cool and crazy for a first impression of the balance of the league. I'm telling you that competitive balance is so important to a new league. It's not going to be as fun of a league watching experience if one team is miles better than all of them. Slam Ball's revival will tell you that. So a 19-0 game isn't going to be a good sign, right? A fun thing that happens at halftime that I don't think that we see in sports often is that they interview the Hitmen coach, and he says that they're beating themselves.
Well, we're just beating ourselves. You know, we're not playing the defense the way it's designed to be played. I think we were a little tight when we first started, and then we're a little bit shell-shocked. We just got to, group together and come back and play our best the second half.
But I think the interview is being broadcast across the stadium, like on the loudspeakers, so the other sideline reporter and the other team can hear that. And they immediately respond with some bars of their own.
In a dominating defensive performance in the first half, but you just heard New York coach Rusty Tillman say they were beating themselves. It wasn't you beating them.
Well, hey, we still got to put those lights out defense. I think the buzzers are circling. The stadium, he sees it. And that's what happens when vultures circle them stadiums, man. They smell death. We got to go out there these next 30 minutes and bring it to them.
It's actually genuinely hilarious. I think that more leagues should do that because that was very good. The XFL also takes us directly into the locker room coverage to potentially have to hear what the coaches are saying.
Do what you're supposed to do. It doesn't work any other way.
Okay, now, the 2 TDs they ran, one was inside about the 20-yard line. They threw the seam out here with a P4.
It's good insider's access, but I think that the thing here is that the average football fan is not going to understand what's going on in the slightest. And that's a reason, again, why I don't think that the leagues copy this part of the production. They kind of edit that out instead of having it live. And I feel like most pro teams wouldn't want their strategies broadcast for future endeavors. We get back to the second half and we see how lopsided this game is. The Hitmen have -3 rushing yards, bro. For the sake of the video, and if you didn't get the foreshadowing drop that I had earlier, I'm just going to spoil the rest of the broadcast for you. Neither team listed here scores again. They interviewed Tony Siragusa in the second half, which at the time he just retired, so he doesn't hold back. He doesn't hold back on this game.
Rusty Tillman, man, what are you doing? Get these guys fired up. I want to see a game here, baby.
And I want to just step back and talk about how crazy this is. A former NFL player just got on the mic, which is connected to the stadium, and just criticized the XFL coach and says that he just wants a competitive game here. I understand why you, in theory, would want this interview, but I only would have done this interview if the game was going well. Because Tony Siragusa doesn't have any filter, and you knew that when you put him on the camera. Later on, the hitman quarterback gets laid out, and then we see him getting tested to see if he's all there or not. Once again, this is the side effects of the XFL that I don't think that they took into account for. Like, this is the main thing with it. I think that Vince McMahon promoted that something would be more dangerous than the NFL when he didn't know just how dangerous the NFL already is. It's really wild seeing a quarterback take a concussion test and have the cameras focused on it. Like, this goes against everything live sports is known for now. What's wild is that we go directly from this to a cameo from The Undertaker.
You might say
I'm not going to make fun of him for the "don't bet against it" line, but I just want to make it clear that I did not add the Limp Bizkit music in the background. That was already there. I know that I put Limp Bizkit in other videos of mine. This was already in that one. Coming back from the break, it's announced that The Rock was hosting Saturday Night Live, which makes so much sense, honestly, that they wanted to make this night like really like have so much overlap where it's like, if you like Saturday Night Live and you like The Rock, you're going to like this XFL game that's happening before, which I think is a great idea. They really did pull out all the stops to make this XFL try and be great. So I understand the synergy here. Then later interview quarterback number 7, and if you've been keeping track, it's the same quarterback that got tested for a concussion earlier.
The other team has momentum. They're doing some things that are confusing us. We're getting beat off the ball, but you know, things are just snowballing right now. And, you know, there's nobody making excuses. We're just being outplayed right now.
This is crazy work, bro. I'm sorry, bro. I can't even. 4 minutes later, they have another player cheerleader collab.
Brandon Sanders, what's your favorite part of the game?
Right now, thinking about the bump and run.
Once again, we get another reminder of just how exciting the other game going on at the same time is. Chicago and Orlando are having so much fun, man. Don't you wish that you were watching this game? We also get a programming note about future XFL games, and one of them is on UPN, which is it's a blast from the past. The one thing I have of note is that there's a fourth quarter update of the other game, as we get to go now and watch that broadcast live and get to check in on how the game is going. What if I told you that the broadcast never switches back to the other game? Now, I have a couple of problems with this. Imagine if you were in a movie theater and you're not watching the best movie in the world, but you're still a little bit invested. I mean, you've been introduced to the characters and you know who they are. Now imagine if that movie theater then threw you into a second half of a different movie while you're in the same theater room, by the way. They barely introduce anyone and then you never finish the other movie. That's what the XFL watching experience must have sounded like if you didn't have satellite TV. By the way, they did this with 14 minutes left in the game that they were showing us, which is a huge gamble. We've seen comebacks happen in way less time. While the game is better, the rationale of this is wild to me. I will state that the announcing crew is way better than the main crew that we were watching, which is also something.
It's known for John Avery. He's been the difference maker in this game. I'd give the ball to Avery.
It honestly makes me wonder what the reception of the league would be if this game shown was actually on NBC. And I think that, of course, you had to pick one. It's bad luck, honestly. I understand, but it's just a huge what if. With Chicago down 5, they then try to mount a comeback, but Orlando picks it off.
20-yard line, second down. Play action. Oh, slip. There's a throw. Intercepted. Oh, what a hit.
And this is a really exciting football game. It's exciting. It's fun. Orlando scores another touchdown, and these commentators are, again, they're just way better, man.
It's going to be a huge series for Orlando. Well, I'm looking to throw. He's got all day. In the end zone. Oh, touchdown.
2-minute warning. Chicago comes back and scores and makes it a tight game. And even if the tight end doesn't get up quickly, we do have a ball game. The other game ended, by the way, same score. Anyway, Orlando holds on to win this game, and the broadcast ends. So yeah, I think this had potential, but it felt really forced at times. There's the player segments with the cheerleaders, which probably sounded cool in theory, but the overall lack of chemistry just seeps through all of this and just made this seem corny as hell. I think the main thing about the XFL is that it was too cheesy for the average football fan and not exciting enough for the average wrestling fan. My theory is that Vince McMahon thought that football and wrestling were basically two sides of the same coin, just a bunch of people making contact and wowing the crowd. But it's not. While wrestling is more of an art form in terms of selling punches and finishing moves, football is more like an ongoing battle. The XFL's all access was a great idea, but it was too much access. I do not need to see my quarterback getting tested for concussions. I do not need to see or hear random fans giving interviews. I know that they weren't really able to get into their groove or anything, but some of the sideline interviews were lackluster, and above all else, the football in the first game was just a bad game, while simultaneously having a better game happen for 3 quarters off screen. It's the most chaotic league debut I've ever seen, ever. It's actually crazy, all of this that happened, and summarizing it at the end, you're just like, I understand why Kid Me was like, is this real, dude? I don't think this is real, bro. Like that. So yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the XFL debut, and dude, a lot to unpack, but thank you guys for watching the end of the video. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate you guys. Love you. See you later.